melt that. Then I'm gonna add shallots to this one. This is shallot, it's not onion, it's shallots. About a tablespoon, I would say, something like that. I don't measure anything. Just put that in there, just sweat it around for 10 seconds or so. And a little bit of garlic. Sweat that around. I don't want it to take any color, so now I actually have a little bit too much in there. Then I'm gonna add a handful of rice to this one. A handful of rice. And I just continue stirring it. And I want to heat this up properly. Because when I heat it up properly, and I add the liquid here later on, it's going to start boiling quickly, and that's exactly what I want. Now I'm adding wine to this one first. And you see it starts to boil at once, right? We want that. All the flavor of the wine goes in here. And we want this to evaporate, you see. I just keep stirring all the time. I have a little bit high heat actually, but I'm going to continue wearing that. Then I add this shellfish stock to it. And you see it starts to boil at once. And it boils very hard. We want that. Just one ladle of this one, and it will evaporate. All the flavor of the shellfish stock goes into the rice grains that is simmering there. So we stir it around all the time, huh?
Yes, tablespoon.
And I want this to evaporate, you see.
Starts evaporate for a sec.
Then I'm going to add more of the stock. I continue doing this for about 20 minutes, you see. And I stir it more or less all the time. When I stir it all the time, what is happening is, let me explain it, is that the rice grains are scrubbing against each other. And they are releasing starch. Starch is an important ingredient when you do risotto, because starch is going to make this creamy, you see. And starch is basically rice flour in this case. It's a rice flour that is developing now. So I'm in a way doing a slurry. You know, remember what slurry was? Corn starch and water, liquid and some kind of, you know, starch. And that's exactly what I have here also. Naturally, you understand what I mean with that? So we don't wash rice when doing risotto rice, or when doing risotto. You want to keep the starch in there. So whatever you do not wash the risotto rice. Do not wash the risotto rice. Okay. Say it again. Do whatever you do not wash risotto rice. Take it straight from the box. Do not wash it. We want to have the starch there, you see. And I stir this more or less all the time. I can't put a lot of liquid in here, because then all of a sudden it's going to be this much liquid, right? And the rice grains are not so close to each other. That's why I add little by little. So they are scrubbing against each other all the time. Understand?
Yes.
And this one, you know, it's going to get a little bit hot for you when you're doing all three at the same time. There's going to be a lot of steam escaping. You're going to be a little bit sweaty today. Maybe one or two of you will burn yourself also. You don't use a metal spoon. You should avoid that. It's one of the old tricks. Wooden spoon is perfect for making risotto. First of all, it doesn't transfer heat that much, and it should be used. Now you hear that sound, it starts to evaporate, and it starts to stick a little bit in the bottom of the pot also. So I have to add more. And it boils all the time, right? Some chefs will have this one simmering also. I don't think it's necessary though, but I get their point. They want it to boil quickly. So what's happening again, if I write this rice grain here, is that now, for example, since it starts to boil very quickly, it's probably soft on the outside now, but it's still hard in the middle. But this is too hard. So after 8 minutes or 10 minutes, it might be only that piece that is hard. It stopped there. But what I want is to sort of have an area there that is only hard, al dente. And that's how you do pasta also. You cannot get that if you only simmer it. You need to have a very, very high heat, you see. If you only simmer it, it will be sort of slowly soft all the way through. So you have to, it's the same with boiling pasta also. You can't simmer pasta. It has to boil very quickly and on very high heat. This risotto also that I'm doing now, and all risotto, contains a lot of fat. So it's not the healthiest food you can eat now. It also contains carbohydrates, right? Which is the rice. So eating risotto every day maybe is not sort of recommended, right? Could be a little bit too much. Then I have these things here. When do I put these in here then? Like last minute basically. They're already cooked, there's only the shrimps, but we know the shrimps takes 30-40 seconds to cook also. So I would basically just put this in last minute. Then I would put it in a plate and I'm going to carry it to my customer. They're sitting 45 seconds away, you understand? So when he has it in front of him, he will see the shrimps and he will say, wow, they look nice. And the first thing he's going to taste. And he will go, wow, that was nice. Hopefully, if you do it correctly. So when you're working with risotto in a good restaurant, we're talking seconds, you understand? When you do something, you can't do it 5 minutes before it's going to be served. I love it. I know a guy that was working with Marco Pierre White in London, so we went into the kitchen. This was in his Criterion restaurant, so it was very close to where I worked also. I knew a guy there. And there was this girl standing, she was only doing risotto. Back in those days, risotto was something new in England, where I worked. It was, a lot of places had it. And Marco was famous for making good risotto. So there was this girl standing by a stove like you and she might have 12 of these pots there. And she was stirring it, she was doing one risotto here, another one there, so on. So she had all these pots lined up and stirred a little bit in order, adding stock to it and so on also. And then she has these wooden clips, that you hang clothes to find out what pavement it was on and so on also. So she was working over a system that she was sort of. And Marco wasn't there that day, but his sous chef was screaming all the time, come on, where's that fucking risotto? And she was standing, wait, you're slow! It was screaming all the time. It was actually quite fun to see. Now it's dry again, huh? So add a little bit more. Little by little. And you understand that the stock that I have here will be very powerful because it reduces. And all the flavor of the shellfish goes in that. It might be even too powerful. I have to taste it.